What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Now, you may be surprised to realize that I have absolutely cocked up this and I don't actually have the correct chat over there. And yeah, I haven't actually got everything set up. So bear with me one freaking second while I just kind of just reposition my life is probably the most honest opinion. But anyway, I hope you're all doing well. Quite a bit to get into. Markets finally giving us something to talk about. Now, we can't get the bells and whistles out just yet. And I know that many of you are probably thinking, well, too bad, I want to get bullish on the charts. I want to get excited about the markets, etc., etc. That's fine. Like, you guys can absolutely do that. But I do want to just tread with an element of caution, but at the same time, break down what's going on in the markets. Because I do think, look, we can't deny the fact that today's been a solid day. And when I take you through a little bit of macro data, it's actually an even better day than I think a lot of people will think. Now, if you were staying close to the news, by the way, Trump did try and dump the markets. Let's just call it as it is. He decided he was going to get the whole weird tariff thing coming again. But I'm just going to quickly do this and quickly do this and quickly do this. We'll talk about the chart in just a second, but I just need to set everything up a little bit better. So there we go. Right. So yeah, so we're going to go and kind of get into that. It's kind of an important stream. We're going to be talking a little bit around what does the sentiment feel like, and some very interesting correlations that could certainly decide which way we're going to go next. And I think this is definitely going to be an interesting analogy in terms of where we're going to go, right? So as always, sit back, relax, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're just walking in. Really appreciate you taking time out to come and hang out with me this evening on the live stream, which will be good. Like I said, we've got an action-packed show to get into, lots of stuff to talk about, and lots of stuff. Obviously, the first part of the show will be breaking down some market analysis, not necessarily just looking at charts, but a little bit more macro. It feels like that's been a good indicator for us on a number of different things. And then we'll kind of get into a little bit of charts, a little bit of news, and all that kind of good stuff. So again, welcome in if you're on TikTok as well. By the way, if you don't, man, this is so difficult. Hold on there. Jesus Christ. Apparently this helps out push us up in the old algorithm, gets us like a popular live and all this kind of stuff. It's because the camera's like weird. So anyway, do the heart me things, use the popular upvotes, tap the screen, share me out, which is a button down here somewhere. I think it's like here somewhere. You can just tap this and let people know we're here, and hopefully they can get something worthwhile out of this. All right. So again, I appreciate you guys as I appreciate you guys as well. So with that being said, Stu, what's going on? Welcome in. Lauren Babs here. What's going on, Lauren? Glad to see you better. Beavis here. What's going on? Welcome in. Okay. So let's talk really quickly, and YouTube, TikTok, you guys can watch the screen and I will see you back here in just a minute. So let's talk a little bit about the market. This is the weekly candles, by the way. Obviously, we got that close yesterday above this key trend line, which is a little bit off here when we talk about BTC. But if we go to the daily candles, in fact, why is that line? That line's not right. What is that line doing? Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. My line's not right. Something must have changed. Something has changed. Oh, come on, 2-bit. Good start to the stream, you massive chopper. Right. Am I on the right Bitcoin here? Yeah, I am. Okay, fine. Oh, I know what it is. It's because I don't have it in that. Hold on a minute. This doesn't feel right. What is going on here? Why does my chart look super weird? This is like super weird. This isn't right. Anyway, okay, we'll survive. I don't know what's going on here right now, but maybe... Oh, that's what it is. Oh, come on. Jesus. Right, sorry. There we go. That's way better. There we go. Right, okay, perfect. We're back. God, that was honestly pretty awkward, to be honest. I apologize if anyone's just like, what have I tuned into this absolute chopper stream? Right, here on the weekly candles, we did actually print a good weekly candle yesterday, breaking back above this trend line, which I think is important. And ultimately, we've had a pretty solid day today as well. So let me just sort this trend line up. There we go. That's the trend line. Okay. So you can see as we break back above here, we actually are retesting currently the 20-day EMA, which is good news as well. If you go to the daily candles, we did actually break and perfectly bounced off this line. And then we broke the 200-day EMA, which is pretty good news, actually, all in all, when you start to walk through some of these key things. So macro data right now is suggestive of a uptrend. Now, we do need to be a little bit mindful. And I talked about this over the course of last night's live stream that, look, let's see what happens. Asia markets were pretty volatile when they opened. I know Craig was online, so was I. I think maybe Curtis and a couple of others were on, and we were kind of chatting in the Discord about just kind of sentiment in the market and what it looked like. But interestingly, we did get a really good bounce off this. while at the same time, we actually saw pretty much large institutional selling off, which is kind of interesting as well. So we'll come back and I want to talk a little bit more about the charts, maybe what we can expect. Obviously, we printed our full Discord breakdown. If you aren't in the Discord, then link is in the description or in my bio. If you're here on TikTok, you can obviously jump into the Discord as well. But we did actually put that in with, I think, some pretty good accuracy in terms of what we talked about and how that kind of all played out. And then ultimately what we looked for short term, slightly bullish, but still in a fragile position. Watch for the data and the trend, which that was kind of the I guess the end summary that we left it with, but kind of feels all right. Again, I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I do want to see a close above the 20-day EMA and getting up to that around 111,200. So we'll talk a little bit more about the charts in just a minute. I want to talk a little bit about where do we think this market's going to go and how are we all going to start to play out? And I guess fundamentally, what does it look like over the course of maybe the next few weeks, months, and potentially by the end of the year? Now, if you've been a part of my live streams over the course of last week, we've talked a little bit about altcoin markets. We've talked a little bit about debt. And we talked about gold the other night, which I think is important. And then we've also talked about sentiment. And in tonight's live stream, I want to kind of double back on a couple of key things. I want to look at tech stocks. I want to look at the cues in terms of the actual stock market and the correlation they have to crypto. At the same time, I also want to discuss a couple of things in terms of where we think the market is and how markets generally move based upon consumer sentiment. Okay, so I know that's a bit of a mouthful and I know that feels like quite a lot to kind of break down, but I definitely think it's going to be worth it. And I definitely think as we walk through some of this key stuff, it may give us a little bit more insight as to potentially the optimism or not in the market. Too bad, I love how you blanked my DM. Where did you send it to? It depends where you sent a DM to. Do you send it to Discord or did you say you DM me on Discord? No way you did. No way you DM me on Discord. I do not have a DM from you on Discord at all, actually. Where did you send it? Depends where you send it. Okay, so fear and greed index. If you caught my Bitcoin update video today, you would have heard me talk a little bit about sentiment in the market and why the old Warren Buffett statement of when markets are fearful, you should be greedy, right? Maybe you did send it to Zbit. Definitely want to do that, or Slavic Crypto. Avoid both of those people because they're not me. So fear and greed index right now is sitting at 28. It's actually a little bit lower when you go into something like CoinMarketCap. But the fact of the matter is markets are nervous. And equally, crypto Twitter, you can kind of walk through some of the people that believe there's some kind of like heroes over there are certainly very bearish on the market. I mean, so much so that they're actually sharing each other's pictures, and it's all a bit weird, really. And you start to get into a place of, do you know what? I'm going to just ignore their statements right now, and I'm going to analyze it myself and kind of work through. So fear and greed index sitting right now at a whopping 28. Now, we have seen this before, and we've definitely seen market move on this sentiment, basically people coming in and buying. What we have to do is understand what is there to come. And when people want to buy from particularly fearful moments, this is generally where you get risk appetite to come from. So are investors prepared to take a risk or not? Now, if you think about how risk works in investing, the higher the risk, the potential, the higher expectation of returns, but not always guaranteed. Whereas at the same time, you can have extreme greed, which basically means everyone thinks everything's going to go to the absolute moon. Now, what's going on at the minute? Well, retail investors right now are continuing to buy equities and stocks, okay? So we had the stock market, which is why I want to talk a little bit about it in this stream, because I think it's important. So the stock market has been absolutely skyrocketing. The S&P 500, again, looking like it's going to break a brand new all-time high. We all know a lot of that is built upon debt, okay? So we know that that is definitely not specifically investments, but it's definitely built on debt. Buyers of US stocks, for example, 23 of the last 26 weeks have been buying weeks. People have been buying the stock market like crazy, okay? And we've seen things like this, dot-com bubble, for example, back in 2020, we saw this again in terms of equity options. And this is currently the longest streak we've had since 2020. Matches the 24-week stretch in 2023, which is obviously when the market flipped and the Trump administration started to come in. And actually, retails have been net buyers of ETFs in 206 of 208 trading days so far in 2025, right? The reality is that they have been buying huge amounts of ETFs. And we'll talk about the cues and how these link back into the crypto market pretty soon, okay? Because I think they're definitely worthwhile talking about. We also talk about US investor equity allocations, which basically means what are people in the US actually putting their money in right now? Well, the reality is that not only are they households, pensions, insurance, and investment funds, they're all buying in stocks. Like everyone's buying stocks right now. Apple, for example, printed, I think, something like 4.5% today, with the expectation that they're going to be doing some chips. Nvidia keeps moving up as they're moving a lot of their chip production back into the US. But they are buying more stocks like crazy, okay? This is kind of where it gets a little bit spicy and probably plays out way more interesting, as Americans' wealth is more tied to the stock market than at any point in history. And we can see this with just the S&P 500, as we say, continuing to rally yet again. So you can see here, look, the S&P 500 up another 1%, which is like insane. The NASDAQ up 0.3%. And then equities such as gold and silver are all moving. This will all become important when we sort of get to a little bit more of a move. But how does this relate back to the crypto market? And you will have heard me talk about this chart the other day. Not this one specifically, by the way, but we talked about altcoins moving to exchanges. Well, October 14th was the elusive Friday when everything went to shit. 64,000 unique addresses deposited Bitcoin, the highest inflow since July. Okay, so everyone kind of was panicking. Absolute panic selling, crazy people dumping whatever they want. That, by the way, has significantly dropped on the 18th, only 4 days later, where we started this recovery. So again, I'm going to have to go back to the Bitcoin chart here. You can see here that the bottom came in the day after and we started our recovery. It drastically reduced. Now, I know what you'll say. Well, that's an obvious 2-bit. Like, it's obvious that that's going to happen. But this means that less people are now panicking. Less people are settling back in and saying, okay, I feel like, commodities. Forgive me, Holmes. Good that you keep me honest. But we actually see that the deposit in Bitcoin dropped to 30,000 people. So therefore, less addresses are sending cryptocurrency exchanges. This could mean one of two things. One, people therefore believe there is more legs in the market. Two, people are completely okay with holding their own crypto. Now, with altcoins, I think it was a little bit different, and we discussed that at length yesterday. Now, this also relates directly back into the MVRV ratio. Now, this is where you have to err with an element of caution, because actually the MVRV drop-in does signal a potential local bottom, or it could also signal a move down. Now, when you correlate the MVRV to something I'm going to show you in a minute, probably starts to then potentially give you an idea that, well, maybe there's more upside in this market than I think a lot of people are giving it credit for. So you've got big investment going into the S&P 500. Okay, fine. Well, that's, people are kind of, going all in terms of where that looks like. You've got pension funds, equity funds, hedge funds, all that. They are also investing into the stock market. Again, you can see the Magnificent Seven, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, all those kind of people. Again, getting absolutely shit tons of it. If you think about risk appetite that we've just talked about over the course of the last couple of images, well, there's probably no better time right now than to potentially rotate into some altcoins. And this is giving us a year-on-year movement in terms of price. So for example, you can take the Bitcoin price here at 93,508 as of this time, or the 31st of December, 2024, up to where we are right now. So we've seen an 18.5% move in the 10 months that we've been in. But what do you see on the rest of it? Well, you see an absolute sea of red when it comes to the altcoin market. And I mean, you don't need me to tell you that that's the case. We know that's the case. So risk on certainly would start to favor altcoins. And in fairness, AI altcoins do feel like they have an opportunity. So for example, you can see here, this is AI and DePIN. You can see loads of these are significantly down, with only Tau actually starting to print a little bit. However, is still down by about 4.5%. And you can see there that gaming, we all talked about the fact that we thought gaming was going to have a move. So definitely if you were going to go risk on in the market, altcoins feel like an opportunity to get to it. So the big question, how do we see the rotation go back into altcoins? Now, this is where you're going to have to bear with me here, because I'm doing something new on my charts and I don't know if it's going to work. So bear with me. Now, you will know the Qs, okay? The Qs track all of the kind of top 10 companies on the NASDAQ, right? So this is, again, Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft, Nvidia, all these kind of companies, right? History tells us, and hopefully this is going to work, overlaying the, let's change this color actually really quickly to, can I change it? Yes, I can. Let's change it to Bitcoin orange. Okay, this is the price of Bitcoin, taken from Coinbase, by the way, on a logarithmic scale. So basically giving us the same kind of idea as to what it got. And what you can generally see here on a number of occasions is that the price of Bitcoin generally has been following the cues, which generally means if you get an uptrend in the cues, then we see the price of Bitcoin going up. And then when we see a dump in the cues, we generally see the price of Bitcoin coming down. And again, this goes back to 2024, by the way. You have to kind of, the way that it all sets up on the chart, I'd have to like come back out, reset the chart and go back in. Okay, so I'm not going to scroll back out and be like, see, you can kind of see it from 2021 as well, and it all sorts of plays out. But you can see very much that these two align. So we can, you know, hypothesize to about here that generally speaking, if you get uptrends in the cues or you get positive sentiment in the stock market, you generally will therefore see a positive move in the crypto market, with now the exception, and the exception comes here. We could argue right now that the crypto market is in essence growing up, maturing, if you will, and is now starting to decouple, which I think a lot of people have been talking about for a while, but is actually decoupling away from the stock market as the stock market continues to print. And this is where it becomes pretty frustrating with the markets versus where we are in terms of the crypto market. So this is why you are seeing, in my opinion, by the way, sluggish movement in the crypto market. And if we were to look at Friday's event, which I'm pretty sure everyone believes right now was a massive manipulation event, you would even argue, and this didn't really twig with me until earlier on today, when you had some really solid movement in the market, and then Trump tweeted out, oh, well, yeah, China's going to pay their tariffs. You're like, why have you just tweeted that out? Like, why have you tweeted that out? That doesn't need to come out. And then we obviously saw the fact that this big whale on Hyperliquid, and tinfoil hats on, by the way, they are opening other shorts, right? So we're seeing some shorts open, by the way. But generally speaking, the correlation has moved away. So we're definitely in a place now where the crypto market is very much different to the stock market. The divergence between the Qs and the Bitcoin also provides a window into investor strategy. What are people doing right now? People are buying the stock market like crazy. Now, let's try and do something that's also pretty interesting. Bear with me as I try and do this. And this might work, it might not work. Okay, so I'm trying something new tonight, people. And we're going to sort of see where this one goes. So here is the same chart, the same Bitcoin chart, overlaid over the price of gold, which, if you remember, we talked about this about 3 days ago, which generally speaking, we could argue when you are seeing momentum up in gold, you are seeing momentum down in Bitcoin. Okay. Now, you could hypothesize then on two separate analogies. You could say, well, brand new money is going into gold, right? Brand new money is going into gold. People just seem to have found money from somewhere and they're buying gold. Or you could hypothesize the fact that, well, if the price of Bitcoin is coming down and the price of gold is going up, is that the fact that we are seeing capitulation from the crypto market into gold? Now, what happens when it goes the other way? And we've only got a couple of small examples to give, but when we see gold come down in price, what do we generally see? We see the price of Bitcoin go up. Therefore, you could hypothesize again to say, well, maybe, just maybe, Stop talking on Discord, you set of twats. I can hear it, like, just going off in my headphones. I'm going to leave the Discord, you massive set of choppers. I'll reopen it again in a minute. All I can hear is Discord going bloop, 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 as you lot are talking in the Discord, not listening to what I'm talking about here on the stream. How rude. At least TikTok are listening in. Thanks, TikTok. You guys are crushing it. So, what we generally see here is this therefore going to play out? So, if we hypothesize again and say, well, eventually we kind of feel this gold market is going to burst. Remember, we're massively over leveraged and we're massively in debt. I talked about this maybe even last night, actually, the fact that, yeah, exactly, Holmes, that we could start to see the divergence coming, that we see gold start to come back down and Bitcoin start to go back up, right? Which I think could be pretty interesting as well. This could signal a rally. Now, you may be thinking, well, how does that happen, right? How do we get into a world where potentially these are going to flip? So not only going to see the Qs and the gold price come down, but then the risk assets go on. Now, if you've been listening, TikTok, if you've been listening, what would drive, see you later, Lauren, what would drive the difference between the Bitcoin price and the gold price, okay? I'm listening to a bit. I tried something new too. Like it, Tim. What's going to make it different? And I think that has to be the question we've got to ask ourselves. Well, we all know what's coming around the corner, which is the Federal Reserve rate cuts. This will mean people will be more tempted to go into risk on asset. Oh, shit. I didn't mean to do that. Risk on assets, which again could signal a more bullish move in the market. Now, if we were to zoom out, and I don't know if this is going to work, by the way, but bear Bear with. Let's see if it does. So again, you can kind of see there that generally speaking, I don't think it actually works as a logarithmic scale, but again, this is kind of the price of gold, and you actually can see a pretty good correlation between this as it goes up. Remember, when gold moves up, Bitcoin comes down, and vice versa. It's a pretty obvious trend that walks through. Now, what you could argue is that we've seen an uptrend macro on both of them. If we then see gold start to come back down, you could argue that Bitcoin may carry to the upside. Now, it's not going to carry as crazily up as it is, but it certainly looks like it may be on its way up. The same could be applied to the Qs. If you look at the Qs on exactly the same sort of time scale, then again, you can kind of see how this has been correlated for literally forever. And then right now, we're definitely seeing this kind of break against the Qs, and certainly, certainly changing in terms of how this all plays out. So 2 things to think about on the back of what we've just been talking about for the last 20 minutes. As the crypto market continues to rally, I can get rid of that now. So as the crypto market continues to rally, we need to keep an eye on what's happening with gold, and we need to keep an eye on what's happening with the Qs, even down to, by the way, the fact that you can look at the Qs on open and see exactly what's going to go on. I was trying to find out where if I can get bank balance sheets, which is super difficult to get, by the way, and I couldn't find them. But at the same time, wherever we've got risk assets that are underperforming, and historically, again, remember what we talked about here, are significantly underperforming from probably where we want to get to, then the demand is absolutely there. And I think this is where it starts to get different, and I think this is where it starts to become interesting. Remember, you either get to 2 points right now, which is you believe the market's over and it's finished, right? If you are bearish on the market, you have to be bearish enough to say that the cryptocurrency bull run is over. And therefore, that's why people are going into stocks. That's why people are going into shares, and that's why people are going into commodities, etc., right? Or you believe that there is a little bit more to come in the market. And the reality is, when you look at the macro, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. When you look at the macro, at the minute, everything seems to be playing out pretty much as we would expect it, even down to the correlation between the Qs and gold, which we've been discussing at the same time. Now, the other thing to think about is, wherever you've got risk off, and a lot of people get confused with ETFs. Remember, ETFs right now, particularly the Qs ETF, are now doing about $57 million a day in terms of trading volume. What are we seeing in terms of Bitcoin ETFs? And this is even more important when you look at today as a move. ETFs in Bitcoin are going risk off. People are selling. Look at BlackRock, 2,500 Bitcoin out of their iShares. Remember, this isn't specifically BlackRock selling. This is consumer sentiment within that ETF. They're saying, no, I want out. And I think this is interesting. Likewise with Grayscale, likewise with ART21. So the 3 big ones have been selling. Now, if we were then correlate that to this, and it isn't the best chart in the world, actually, but probably not ideal, and probably not ideal, but I'll show it anyway. This is the Investco's QQQ fund rate that we were just looking at on here. This is the ETF version of it. And what you can see is demand into the ETF is now starting to uptick in terms of where we've been. So you've got a downtrend in terms of Bitcoin ETFs and an uptrend in terms of the Qs. People right now are going into what they perceive as more risk off assets with bigger upside potential. Now, this just means that the market needs to flip riskier. I know that sounds like a crazy statement to mean, right? And again, this isn't financial advice. I'm just telling you exactly kind of what I think. And again, TikTok, just so you guys can see this. The market needs to feel like it can go a bit more risk on. How do you go risk on? Well, you go risk on with this. And this is ultimately what we're going to see in the next 8 days and 21 hours. We obviously have a little bit more sentiment prior to that, but expectation is rate cuts are coming. And we also know that December rate cuts are potentially going to get that double cut that I've been talking about now for like the last friggin' 3 months or something like that. And I think I'm the only person that's talking about a potential double rate cut in December. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but this then would allow people to go more risk on as opposed to risk off, which could see the rotation back into ETFs Could see, therefore, the rotation back into the crypto market. And this dump that we saw here ends up playing out like these previous capitulations on the market. And actually, we then start to see a push back to the upside. So let's see, in my opinion. Let's see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comments, people. Let me know what you think in the chat. I put in the premium Discord, by the way, and if you're not in that premium Discord, you want to get access to it, it is dead simple. Grab a channel membership here on YouTube. It's going to cost you about $7, $8, $9, something like that. Or you can grab a subscription here on TikTok and you get access to it, which is trade alerts and our full market analysis that we put out Sunday, Wednesday, and then anything else that we kind of need to talk about. But just to give you kind of a bit of a feel for what that sounds like, and equally what we put yesterday, short term was slightly bullish, but still in a fragile position. Watch the data and the trend. Long term bullish, macro uptrend is still intact. My final thoughts for the day. BTC is sitting right on the line where the bulls need to defend. Short term still fragile, but bouncing. Long term structure fully intact. I'm cautiously bullish here, leaning long as 106 hold, but keeping stops tight if you were trading. We're at the make or break point on this trend line. Weekly still favors upside continuation into year end. If we reclaim 111, then the bull run is still on. And that is where I'm at. We need to close 111,000. If anything, I'd want to see it close about 111,200. But I think 111,000 feels like we're one step nearer to accepting an uptrend in the market. And we'll talk a bit more tomorrow about how I think there is a strategic, how can I put this without sounding like a lunatic? A strategic, calculated, coordinated attack to try and short the market or dump the market. And people will go, you're crazy. But I've said ages ago, and remember, you guys might not remember it, I said I thought the individual that has gone onto Hyperliquid and was like opening $1 billion trade and doing all this crazy shit that lost 100 million, I said was an insider, and I said that was nonsense, and I didn't believe for a second that was a real person. I do not believe for a flying fuck that if you make $100 million, you lose it all. Not a chance. Not a chance. Therefore, I believe he's an insider, and if I believe he's an insider, I then believe there is a coordinated deliberate attack. And today, and I'll show you this tomorrow because I think there's a bit more evidence to come, I felt like I got my proof. All right? But that's for tomorrow night's live stream. So make sure you hit the follow button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, that way you're not going to miss it. But let me know what you think. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know. Hopefully this crow's going to fly soon. What's going on, Fairground? Bits Blaze in the house. By the way, I don't know if you caught Bits Blaze is now live streaming on TikTok, everybody, so you go follow him. It's epic. I generally believe XRP will be 3-ditch by the end of this year. BR95, have you seen the latest acquisition? Holy crap, Evernorth. What? David Schwartz going to the executive team. Oof. Bullish on XRP. Look out for a video coming tomorrow. It may flip this gap before continuing to the upside momentum. Hopefully. What's going on as well? Zoom Hop. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome. Vern, what's going on? Balls of Steeler winners. What's going on, Calamari? Good to see you, man. Welcome in. Davo's in the house. Hey, thanks for sharing. Don't forget. Oh, man, you guys have shared this live. Here it is. Share this live. Do all. Oh, my God. Hold on. There. Do all this stuff as well. If you can help this out, tap the screen, lock in some likes, all that kind of stuff massively helps out, which is super bullish as well. I swear to God, if that's you lot typing in the Discord, you guys are in trouble. Anyway, don't forget, by the way, if you just want to join the Discord, it's free. You don't have to join the premium membership. You want to get in there. We do share some bits and pieces, but if you want to get absolute alpha, then you can get yourselves in there. Right, 2-bit, can you go over that again? No. Sorry, someone was asking me for help with MetaMask. Has updated the guy's balance to disappear. Oh, is it to do with XCL? If it's to do with XCL, they're doing something on their website. And so I think it's all been a bit weird, to be honest. 2-bit, yeah, I said that tonight. I'm liking the Q's theory, though. Well, you see Magic Crate trying to bring you a little bit more value here on the channel, as opposed to just, you know, I think the price is going to go up. XRP is a wild chart at the moment, but yeah, just got rejected. Yeah, what's it at? 251. Bullish, though. 5%. We'll take that today. 2-bit's been talking about something last 30 minutes, but something... but he does. So he hasn't checked XRP. I can check XRP. There we are. Nice little move on XRP here. This is the weekly candles, by the way. Let's go to the daily. Now, if you haven't got my XRP video, in fact, man, I swear to God, I'm going to turn this Discord off again. If you haven't, I talked about, and I can't remember what I called it, which is bad because it was literally a video that I put out, but you should definitely go and check it out because, what was it? I can't remember. I think it was this video here, by the way, Ripple's master plan. I think it was in this one where I talked about the potential of, oh no, this is it. Go and watch this video here, the bear trap. I talked about the potential bear trap. I hate you, Obi Joe, by the way. I'm just letting you know. Stop typing in the Discord. Can I mute it? I can just hear you guys like it goes bloop. It's like this most super annoying thing. Anyway, yeah, this bear trap video talks about how there could be a bear trap perfectly playing out here on XRP. Guess what? It's kind of playing out exactly that. So by the way, if you haven't hit the subscribe button as well, definitely go check it out. Okay, good. But yeah, XRP is looking good. It is, we can't deny, by the way, a little bit bearish, but we do need to see this upside momentum. And yeah, if this is going to play out a bear trap, it is playing out absolutely perfectly, by the way. That's exactly how a bear trap plays out. So yeah, fingers crossed it plays out favorably. That's what I want to see. But yeah, I think the other thing with the MetaMask stuff, by the way, is obviously the AWS stuff's all down as well. So that could be, is MetaMask... I imagine it's probably to do with that, because MetaMask, AWS will run CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, which basically is where they aggregate the price from. Running with AWS. Yes, applications that use MetaMask can be hosted and on interact with Amazon Web Services. That's why. That's why. My personal opinion, Zebek has more potential to create life-changing wealth for an individual investor. Still high ceiling for 100x, while XRP could 2x at the best at the peak of it all. Yeah, maybe. I mean, Zebek has kind of been doing all right, really. I said it when everything crashed that it's a bear trap. Yeah, well, it certainly definitely is playing out on this as it speaks right now, which is good. So anyway, did anyone think? Does anyone scroll back to listen again and say, hey? You know what's going on RPM. XRP going to 1 quadrillion by Sunday. Let's get it. Oof, 2-bit with his cliffhangers. Trying to give something else to the stream, you know, make it a bit more interesting than just like, you know, me talking absolute nonsense. When are these going to wake up 2-bit? I mean, it's still holding 4,000 or just under. So, I mean, ETH's kind of doing okay, but I mean, altcoins are very specific right now in terms of what they're doing. So, yeah, we'll see. Pepe Ascension launches 31st. If it's a scam, you're getting it 2-bit. Okay. That's fine, Johnny B. That's fine. I don't know what I'm going to get, but when's the 31st? 11 days. Hopefully it launches. My personal... Oh, I said that, didn't I? Yeah. I said that. Thoughts on Flare? I like the fact that Flare are building the TVL when it comes to FXRP. And I think they just hit the ceiling cap again, didn't they? I think they just hit the ceiling cap of like 15 million. Am I making that up? Maybe I'm making it up, by the way, but it's definitely in that realm, which means that they may increase the ceiling cap again. And just FYI, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So if they mint, say, another 15 million FLXRP, they have to then put 15 million XRP into their TVL, which I think is good news, by the way. So yeah, keep an eye out for it. Keep an eye out for it for sure. Much movement upside. We can take a look at the pre-markets a little bit later on. It's probably not worth looking right now, but it's a difficult one because I was looking last night at like the Hong Kong Stock Exchange and then what that looks like in terms of trade. It's kind of difficult, really, because actually we saw Hong Kong kind of dump the market, although interestingly enough, dump the market into support, which is kind of interesting. And then we saw it move back up. But where are we? Yeah, so Hong Kong, wow, Hong Kong looks like it's going to open really aggressive. Holy crap, you guys need to see this. Look at this. 2.5%. Wow, that's a massive move. Jesus. And the Nikkei's going to open 3.5% up. Hong Kong's going bullish, baby. Maybe there's going to be like another injection of capital into the Chinese market. Maybe that's a thing. Right, let's run through the rest of this news that I've got for you. It's just a couple of things that I think are worthwhile noting that could play out a bit more interestingly into the market. We'll keep an eye on what's going on with BTC. Hopefully it can hold. I want to see it hold this kind of 111,000. I want to see it hold a little bit higher though. 111,200 is probably what I'd like to see, which would give us this kind of, yeah, sort of upper range support, really, kind of there. It would be nice close. If we could see that, equally, I think, if we look on the fib from the top to the bottom, well, do you know what? If we were to argue on the fib, you'd probably argue 111,112. This would probably be kind of where we'd want to sit, wouldn't it? I mean, we're on the 15-minute chart, which isn't the most bullish of charts in the world, but anyway, you get my point. So, just dead quick, Connor Brown. Who the hell's Connor Brown, I hear you ask? Well, Connor Brown is the now former counsel to Senator Loomis. He's now been named head of strategy at Bitcoin Policy Institute to bolster Bitcoin advocacy in Washington. Happy days. So not the same thing that Bo Hines did, by the way, albeit he's come out today and said, don't sell your Bitcoin. Great news. But he is certainly now going to be a bit more of an advocate for cryptocurrency in Washington. So good news. Maybe this supports it, and hopefully this will start to feel like we are going to go, we're going to go upside. Here's an interesting chart, and I know Holmes said I like Kobashi, but there's a little bit of, let me just bring this up, by the way, a little bit of breaking news that might be kind of interesting. I know, Tomato Pete, you hate my breaking news, but bear with me, right? Bear with me 1 second. I'm just curious. It flashed up on my phone. Okay, yeah, look at this. Look at this. More investors, listen, more investors are betting on a 50 basis point Fed cut this year. Open interest for secured overnight finance rating, which is the FOSR. Call options, which trade on Fed interest rates, falling to 3.5 by year end, jumped to 926,000 contracts, the highest on record. This suggests the market is pricing in a 75 basis points cut from the current 4.25. Interesting. Open interest on the SOFR call options on this bet has tripled since July. I would give you the benefit of the doubt. Thanks, mate. In other words, investors increasingly expect at least one 50 basis points rate cut by the October or December Fed meeting. I mean, I don't think they go 50 basis points in October. That would be fucking crazy if they did that. And actually, probably, yeah, I think a couple of people spoke about this tonight. Probably spooks the market, but hey, good news. 2 Bit is the only broadcaster I don't listen to a 1.5x. Thing is, I know people, what's going on, Sean? I know people criticize me for talking too quick, but I sometimes watch some people's live streams and some people's, thanks mate, appreciate it, buddy. I watch some people's lives and it literally pains me. I'm just like, get to the fucking point. Personally, I see the government going back Friday. ETFs been launched over the weekend. Well, they won't launch ETFs over the weekend. They're a TradFi product. FOMC coming out with a 50 basis point next Wednesday, and crypto going absolute ballistic on Thursday. Craig's pricing in 150k by next Saturday. Get it, Craig. Love the Floki pump. Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute scam pump. Not in the fact they've scammed everybody, but it's just an Elon tweet, which is kind of weird. But anyway, if you get me, it's kind of a bit out there. But yeah, the Floki scam pump. Anyway, Daniel, what's going on, my brother? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Hey, I saw you. I caught you on TikTok the other day, actually. You're crushing it over this platform, man. So bullish on you, by the way. Keep working hard. But yeah, good to see you, man. Hope you're keeping well. Shutdown meant to be over this. Yeah, Friday apparently is going to close down. Anyway, look at this. M2 Capital Limited has invested 21 million into the Nasdaq listed AVAX One. Come on, AVAX. This can go. Focusing on Avalanche native tokens, support Avalanche development, digital asset adoption. Okay, cool. Like Middle East is going pretty big. Let's not cut ourselves. Now, again, I wouldn't get super hung up on M2 right now. I don't necessarily think it's still a good metric, but not the craziest metric. We need to see this Q correlation to gold, the gold market you need to keep your eyes out for, and then specifically what we talked about in terms of the correlation between Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price, and the Q and chart. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. The most important statement from Powell will be whether quantitative tightening will end. I mean, the view is that he's going to end it. We'll talk about this a little bit, but I've got a full video coming out about it. Evernorth to go public with $1 billion SPSE merger, which is pretty big, actually, in fairness. And interestingly enough, David Schwartz, who was the CTO, I think he was at Ripple, has now gone over as like a high-level advisor to this. Pretty interesting. So we'll see where this plays out. Another good acquisition for XRP and Ripple. Playing out pretty interesting. And then BlackRock is here in the UK. Let's go. BlackRock launches its Bitcoin ETP on the London Stock Exchange as well. So, good news, all right? I mean, is this tied to the fact that we've seen a massive outflow from BlackRock? Maybe. I kind of feel like maybe not, but, possibly. Turn the printer on. You know it, baby. Let's get it. Which could be a thing. We'll have to see. I don't know if it's going to do any sort of crazy volume. ETPs are a little bit boring. I don't necessarily think big markets want to do it. I love the fact that you've come into the live stream and gone, is Solana go up and is BNB will go up? I mean, technically they're both up today. Although BNB's down about 1% actually, but was the XRPN tomorrow's news? XRPN. What do you mean by XRPN? Or have you typed an N and you're not meant to? Jeremy, what's going on, buddy? Welcome in. I think Solana will go up and I think BNB will go up as well. I think you'll get a BNB ETF pretty soon, in my opinion, by the way. But again, we need to see these ETFs. Don't forget, we talked about risk appetite at the start of this live stream, by the way. That's not financial advice, by the way. Jesus Christ, don't go and sell your car and buy fucking Solana. But, I mean, you get 7.5% if you stake it. But risk appetite is definitely there in the market. It's just not quite in the crypto market right now. People are a little bit like, let's see where it goes to. Let's see what happens. I don't need to go into the crypto market right now because we can wait and see what happens. The news you put in the... Is that what I've just talked about? What did you put? Where did you put it? Reuters, Ripple-backed Evernorth set to raise over $1 billion in US listings. That's what I just talked about, isn't it? Where have you put it? Or did you put it in the like news thing? Oh, no, that's just like the aggregated news in the Discord. Don't know. Do we know if it's true about the ETP for the UK tomorrow? It's gone live today, hasn't it? I think it's gone live today, right? BlackRock Group has officially introduced its iShares Bitcoin ETP on the London Stock Exchange following the relaxation of UK restrictions on cryptocurrency investment products. So it should be live now. It should literally be live right now. I don't want to get political or anything like that, and I understand we wouldn't have the regulations we have today. However, where could you see Bitcoin's price at today if Trump wasn't president? I mean, I don't think it would have been this price. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because you wouldn't have got any of the kind of positive catalysts that were about strategic reserves. You could even argue they may have even sold the Bitcoin reserves. So, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard. Would the markets have moved? Would the stock market be as high as it is? Maybe not. Maybe not. I personally don't think the price would have been where it is. At the same time, though, it is worth noting that you could argue maybe it would have just been a continuation grind up like we've seen in previous bull market cycles with then a boom at the end. The fact is that the more and more I look at Friday's capitulation, the more and more you're like, yeah, and I actually got emotional today. I apologize if anyone, really is invested in me as an individual, but I did get emotional, right? And I'm going to show you a couple of tweets that I put out. And you're going to tell me this isn't rigged. Why the need for the tweet? Must have opened another short. So I'm sorry about that one. I couldn't help myself. And then I put this one out as well, which again, I apologize for, but I think it's important. Isn't it amazing how so many people just change their entire outlook and act like they know what's going on? Here's an idea. Shut the fuck up and let's see what happens. Morning rant over. A good 166 people gave two flying shits about that. So anyway, thanks, Toby. Because actually, this is why tomorrow's live stream is going to be pretty tasty, because I want to walk through where I believe like sentiment is and why I believe this market is like rigged at the minute. No need to apologize. You did me. Thanks, Casey. I appreciate that. I couldn't help myself, Davo. Couldn't help myself. People were just winding me up this morning. I was like reading it and you're like, oh my God, you guys are absolute choppers. Anyway. So without Trump, the SEC would still be chasing people for crypto and not being a commodity. I mean, that's true. I mean, you would definitely had a different cabinet. You would have definitely, I mean, was there any even discussions about who would have been in the Harris, what do they call them? Administration if she had become president. Was there any discussions? I don't even think there was there? I don't think there was. But again, the argument could have been that we may have seen an upside grind as opposed to maybe what we got, which is obviously that kind of pump, which at the same time, then obviously we get some of the dumps. So what got announced? So Treasury Secretary would have been Wally Adeyemo. Who the hell is he? He's current Deputy Treasury Secretary, has been viewed as a natural successor to the financial. Okay, so I don't really know I don't know what he's about in fairness, but apparently he would have been the Treasury Secretary, which I guess is Scott Besson. Gina Raimondo has been mentioned as a high-profile tech business figure. She could have done that. Foreign Secretary, we don't really care about. Republican cabinet member, no one specific. Okay. She would have kept certain Biden officials seen as successful with new faces, signal change. So you would have probably kept the same. So the reality is you may have still had Operation Choke Point 2.0. You may have definitely still had... thanks, Dave. I appreciate it, man. You may have still had, some of the people that were in, like... What's up, 2-bit? What did I miss? Oh, jeez. Come on, bro. Go back and watch it. I talked all about some good stuff. Trying to give pure value. it would have been a clown show. I mean, maybe, yeah. I appreciate the energy is magnificent. Moto, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Just trying to bring some value and try and do things a little bit different. You know, we don't want to be here moping and groping. But anyway. So, yeah, I mean, let me think. Rizzler says, do you think this is a relief rally and that we'll go down further? No. But I do think it's a risk. I talked about this yesterday. So you may have heard, and I don't want to get too much into it again, but you hear people talk about, oh, it's a dead cat bounce. It's a bull trap. This is what it's all about. It just doesn't feel or even act that way. Definitely the bear trap's what did I just say? My mind's going completely blank. The dead cat bounce is definitely not a dead cat bounce, right? But could it be a bull trap? Maybe, but bull traps generally go way more aggressive than we sort of see that we've got now. In my opinion, by the way, way more aggressive than we have seen, and you generally see them print on like horizontal lines as opposed to it being like we are. I mean, if you look at macro structure on Bitcoin, that is an uptrend. I don't care what people say. Macro structure on BTC right now is an uptrend. People may think it's not, but I'm going to call them liars because I think it is. And look, I'm not, oh my God, what am I doing here? I'm not saying that I'm any kind of, force to be reckoned with, but, however you look at that, that's an uptrend. And if we were to say that all of a sudden this is just going to go, that would be totally different to every other bull market we've ever had. She's basically 2-bit saying everything is a conspiracy and he's been calling people out on Twitter. I mean, that's kind of true, Stu. That is technically true. But you would know that if you follow me on Twitter. So, yeah. That's my view, by the way. However, I do believe we are definitely in risk of... I definitely think we're in a risk, by the way. We definitely need to see like the markets certainly give us a little bit more upside. Certainly give us some more upside than we've maybe got right now. And hopefully we get it. So... man, I can't. Yeah, that's it there, look. That's it. That's what it is. I follow 12 2-bits on Twitter. Yeah, good idea. Thanks, Obi. Yeah, the feeling's definitely mutual. So yeah, I agree. I see low volume. Well, I mean, that's the other thing we need to be mindful of it. You've got two scenarios playing out right now. You've got the kind of macro scenario, which is we still are very much in an uptrend and everything kind of feels right and would be totally out of character. What's going on, Shoesmith? Totally out of character from where we've been. Historically, you have also got the risk of like, oh, I'm going to slap 1,000% tariffs on China. You're like, the market's going to like collapse again. But FOMC's in 8 days, like 8 and a bit days, like the 29th. So you've got CPI data coming Friday, the first ever Friday CPI data for since 2018, by the way, which is kind of interesting. Still no real forecast on that at the minute because they don't have a lot of data. So still very much in the dark. Oh no, we have got a little bit actually. So forecast is so month over month, forecast is 0.3 with a consensus of 0.3. So that'll stay flat with core inflation rate year over year, forecast at 3, consensus at 3.1. So if we were to get a 3, that would probably feel okay. Inflation month over month feels flat and inflation year over year looks like it might tick up a little bit, which if you got a tick up on inflation and Powell comes out and says, well, tariffs, China, might be a little bit uncomfortable. We'll have to see. Is it a good idea to buy now? I mean, I can't tell you whether to buy now or not. That's not my thing. Again, I should have chatted earlier though. Depending on what you're going to buy, lots of altcoins are significantly down versus their previous all-time highs and equally where they were 8 weeks ago. Doesn't mean they can't go lower. What's the chance that we get ETFs, all the other stuff, and nothing happens? I think, it's a slim chance. Even if you just argued and said, even if they just seed, I mean, think about it. There's 21 XRP ETFs that are going to come in. Well, even if you just said each one of those gets seeded with $500,000, that's still, 11 million, isn't it? As an example. But at the same time, yeah, of course you could get absolutely nothing. Like nothing could happen and people don't care. And, we could now, the craziest thing would you start to see like a massive capitulation on Bitcoin ETFs and people just start to dump a huge amount of, Bitcoin ETFs. Remember, this data is generally lagging. So this normally shows sentiment post the event as opposed to before. So this isn't demand. This is like what's happened, if that makes sense. So when we see green, it's where people have bought it. So we'll see. We have risk in the market still. Yeah, I agree, Daniel. Yeah, 100%. 100%. We've definitely still got risk in the market. Do you have an exit strategy before the bear market? Interested in your insights. Thanks to B. Yes. Now, originally that was always played out as I have a number in my head that I want to get to in terms of my portfolio value, and then I'll start, laddering out. I think you just got to be quite dynamic in how you got to play it. Again, just look at the charts, feel the sentiment that's in the market, and maybe take some chips off the table. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. What you don't want to be is wait for I'm just going to full clip out at, when Bitcoin gets to 150K, I'm just going to sell everything. I think you just have to be sensible. So, for example, if ETH were to rally, and I've said this all along, if ETH were to rally to 6.5K, I would definitely take some chips off the table. Equally, if you're in like lots of high risk, so like Pepe, I hold Pepe, and you're like, man, that's still like bad. If that doesn't start to come back in and we see more capitulation in the market, you're like, okay, well, that's probably going to be the first one I may start to remove. Start with your lowest risk start with your highest risk and finish with the lowest risk. So for example, if you're in Bitcoin, probably going to be the last one you're going to take out, in my opinion. But you got to kind of decide what you want to do. But what I would say is that we'll talk about it here on the stream. It will definitely be in the Discord. Okay, I took some chips off the table. I did this. Like I again, because we can talk about it as a community, and I think that's the best way to do it. I say if you're new to the market, then maybe a little dabble. Worst case, wait for next cycle. I mean, that's probably true as well. Out of 21, only a few will last. Yeah, give it a few weeks, we will wonder what all the fuss is about. I mean, that's true. I think the Fed decision will be a big one. There is no real sentiment coming out at the minute in terms of what that looks like. So, but yeah, I think the Fed will be, because don't forget, you also get the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI, which we talked about this on, when did we talk about the ISM numbers? Friday? So expectation, by the way, is that we might get an uptick on manufacturing, which would align to then a delay on the ISM, which takes us into 2026. All right. Maybe much to Home's disappointment, maybe I might flip on my my market cycle top price prediction by Friday. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's a thing. If we get, the manufacturing PMI coming at 52, that would historically be seen as a bullish move. Maybe. It's got to get there yet. Did you talk about Evernorth? A little bit. Not super crazy, but I mean, it's great news, by the way. Great news. David Schwartz going over there as like an executive advisor, I think is pretty good news as well. So, yeah. And XRP's reacted on the back of it. 5.5%. A nice little move here on the weekly candles. Daily. Could this play out as a bear market trap? Maybe. Bear trap playing out. So you get the kind of dump into the bear trap, a little bit of capitulation, and then you start to move to the upside when everyone thinks it's going to continue downside. You got macro data telling us that it's going to go down. Maybe not. Buy from the open market as well. Yeah, I know it's crazy. Could signal like a, maybe a flip in the market, which I think is good. I think there'll definitely be some that's not going to go. I don't mind flipping when it's justified by substance. I hate stubbornness more. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm going to stick to the end of the market and hope for the best. I mean, the reality is that if you got ISM playing out, let's say the Fed probably have to go dovish, right? The Fed has to go dovish. If you think about it, you're going to get contraction again, potentially on jobs. So we get jobs data coming in on Thursday, the 23rd, so the day before, by the way. Jobless claims, albeit this isn't aggregated data, so you're getting delayed data, but expectation, by the way, is that that's going to tick up another 5,000 jobs, which could be government layoffs, etc. So you could end up with the jobs market once again showing a bit of weakness. The Fed will have to go dovish. They can't go hawkish on the market. If they were to go hawkish on the market, you're going to tell people that the economy is in contraction. People are going to be less likely to hire. People aren't going to get jobs. People aren't going to spend. Therefore, you end up back in the same time where inflation starts to tick up. So I feel like they have to go. They have to go more dovish than maybe they particularly would want to. But at the same time, though, it's Jerome Powell, isn't it? So I mean, what does he care? What does he care? He might just be like, yeah, screw you guys. I'm quitting soon, so I don't really give a flying. So, I mean, US inflation right now is Here, let's have a look. What is US inflation sitting at right now? Just, I mean, 2.28. That is a little bit of a tick up in fairness. So we are actually seeing that kind of tick up over the last 6 months. Whether it's going to make a big deal or not, we'll see. You still got any strikes? Numbers seem low in here tonight. I still have the one from before. So that hasn't come off. But yeah, I think sometimes YouTube's just a bit weird, to be honest. XRP definitely above the 200 EMA. Yeah, not quite. On the daily, I think it's on the weekly candles. Yeah, it's very strong on the weekly, but not on the daily candle, just below. Daily candles needs to be like 262, so needs a little bit more on the daily candles for the 200 EMA. Maybe Holmes. It's I think sometimes it's just a bit weird. I mean, we've had a total of nearly 400 views so far on this live stream. So like 71 people in here. We got like nearly 50 people on TikTok as well. So yeah, it is just what it is, really. Man, these people keep messaging me. It's like, leave me alone. If no 5 bothered, still set for life. That's true. You still I said that, didn't I? I sell 9% at 10 and hope to buy a $5 dip. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the question, we'll talk about the bear market a little bit nearer. Davo, see you later, mate. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it, buddy. I tell you what else we got on Thursday, by the way. Fed balance sheet. That could be pretty interesting. That could be interesting. The Fed balance sheet. See what that does. Have they hit 800 billion? If they hit 100 billion, get ready. Good news all the way. Bond market coming down as well. What does bond market coming down to? Risk on, baby. Just nipping in quickly. Dad's taking a bad turn, helping mum with the care. All right, 37. Look, you know where we are, mate. Thoughts are you, buddy. You do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. And yeah, thoughts are you, my man. So hopefully everything's going to be okay. See you in 4 years. Oh, dear me. Chris Moore is in the building. What's going on, Chris? Good to see you, man. Welcome in. Welcome in. Don't forget, everybody, keep tapping that screen. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up here on YouTube as well. Do so. That would be good news if you could. Yeah, earnings look pretty bullish. We've got you got some pretty big earnings this week as well. Be interesting to see if Tesla still have their Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So yeah, this is the earnings. We've got, what have we got tomorrow? Netflix, GE Aerospace, Coke's coming in tomorrow. Could be interesting. Lockheed Martin, who's that cares? Wednesday, Tesla. Thursday, T-Mobile, Intel. I mean, it's not really going to make much difference. Lloyd's Banking could be interesting, by the way. Thursday, that one's going to make a big. Procter & Gamble, NatWest, quite a couple of banks, actually. Quite a few banks coming in this week, so we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's not the biggest week. You probably want to see AI tech really coming in, see if it comes up. Chris Moore, what's your bet? That's my bet. In 2 days above on the daily. Nice. Yeah, so tired of waiting. One time, I know, tell us about it. Although, didn't you tell me you had like 80 billion XRP? So you're probably fine, in fairness. Not like the rest of us that are like, you know, just grinding where we can. Pizza got into administration. Is that true? Wow. From what I hear, MasterCard's earnings should be well up there. Well, American Express's were. They were crazy. They were like 6% or something wild. All the FUD goes out the window in a couple of weeks and we moon. Let's hope so. I hope so. I mean, I've been saying this most of this week, but tomorrow will be an acid test of what's going on in the market. You know, if we print another candle, you know, maybe retest 112, you could argue we could be starting to see an uptrend. You know, which would be interesting because if you actually got this back up and we actually, you know, could be high, or what we'd probably need is it'll probably do something like this. Let's hope so. Yeah, I've got a pizza takeaway business. It's flat, bro. Really? Wow. Tesla trash by C3AI. What the hell is that? I don't even know what that is. October 11th, 23rd, we had a dip as well. Yeah. I mean, I'm on the daily. I mean, yeah. The 11th was all down to the Friday disaster, but let's see. I mean, certainly if you were to look at the stock market, the pre-markets look pretty crazy in fairness right now. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange, but they looked did they look flat last night? I feel like they did last night, and then they came in like pretty aggressive. Gold looks like it's going to open big as well. But I mean, yeah, the whole stock market looks like it's going to. The Russell 2000 looks like it's going to open 2.2%. That's crazy. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange 2.42. The Nikkei at 3.37 looks like a pretty strong open. In fairness, would certainly be a strong tick to the upside. What does do people care what the FTSE looks like? So expectation is going to be up 1,600 points. There's not really any crazy news that I can see as well. But yeah, I mean that could bode well. Might bode like not well as well. People might decide, man, I'm just going to go and keep buying the stock market, which is kind of insane. But it may flip this gap before continuing its up momentum. Maybe. Is it true the UK will have a curfew? I mean, not really. They want to bring these digital ID cards, which they're in France and a couple of others, which link everything together. Really, I think it's nonsense personally, but. It's called Hot Dough. Take a look. Is that actually true, Mouse? Yeah. Where is it? I mean, can I order a pizza to my house, or is it going to be too far? Is it like I don't want to say the address in case. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You're trying to sell it. Is it ENA? Is that where the address is? Yeah. Waltham Cross. Is that actually your pizza place? Yeah. Is that it? If I come there, can I? You do craft pizza and beer. If I come there, can I get like a? Will you do me a discount? Can I pay in Bitcoin? There we go. Look, if you're ever in where is it again? North London. I mean, I'm nowhere near North. No, I mean, I couldn't be any further from North London if you tried, other than being in Scotland. So I'm not there. But yeah, if I'm ever in London, I will. I'll let people know. Imagine someone comes in now and they're like, I know 2-bit crypto. You'd be like, all right, bro. Yeah, is 5% discount. Man, you should see what I saw about McDonald's and Greg's yesterday. It was disgusting. I don't eat either of those. I need a discount right now, yeah. I know that feeling. Man, it's 10 o'clock. Where the hell did that hour just go, by the way? Where did that, man, Chainlink, look at that. I said Chainlink was going to move yesterday. Some bullish news coming in for Chainlink, by the way. Asta not looking too great. And Fetch AI took a massive dump, albeit apparently there's some like weird refund thing going on with Fetch AI right now. I don't know if that's a thing. Zcash prints 15.5%. Man, Zcash, get the hell out of here. Like, what? Come on, bro. Anyway, right, let's keep an eye on what's going on with BTC. Just dead quick. I won't miss it. Didn't mind a deep pan now and again. Nice. I don't think I've ever had a deep pan pizza in my life. Wow, that's a pretty big number, Tomato Pete. That is a pretty big number, so, yeah. Crazy. Right. Is there anything else we need to talk about before we get out of here? Chris Moore says we didn't start mooning until October 27th, 2024. Yeah, I think a lot of that was to do with the Trump administration, though. That's the difference. And you probably got to look at 2023, really, to see how that kind of correlates to where we are right now. Just because of kind of the Trump effect. I mean, not specifically the Trump effect, but you get my point. But I mean, look at this. BTC is kind of rallying a little bit. 2.26% would be good news. Would be good news, actually. We just need to see it continue tomorrow. What we don't want to see is this kind of like dumperino. I get a deep pan pizza from Aldi. Nice. How much sentiment shift would there need to be for people to start aping in? Probably a reasonably large amount. I think at the minute, you'd have to get something like a big... So if you were to get maybe Trump agrees a China deal that's like super crazy. I mean, the Australian like mineral deal's kind of okay. If you got... See, I don't think 50 basis points would be good. I think 25 basis points and a very dovish Fed would be good, i.e. we recognize that, and we'll do the bingo card, by the way. We need to do the bingo card before next week. We recognize that let's say, for example, that the labor market needs a boost, but the labor market's weakening. And you also want him to say that we don't believe tariffs are having a big enough effect on the market. I think that would be kind of good news. At the minute, we don't have a lot that he's going to come out and say, but they would be the kind of things that you want to see. I mean, we've got Fed Christopher Waller speaking tomorrow, who is a little bit bearish on things. He might give us an idea of what that could look like. Oh, I was going to show you guys something else, actually. Oh, I totally forgot. Man, that's super annoying, actually. I was going to show you this. Which is kind of interesting, right? I know it's loads of data, by the way, but this is kind of interesting. And I wanted to show you this. This is balance sheet. This is balance sheets, by the way, which is kind of interesting in terms of what it kind of looks at and kind of what it goes through, by the way. You could also see what this looks like in terms of gold holdings and all the rest of it, right? So it's basically aggregated data for US commercial banks and their assets. So not their balance sheet, which is kind of what I was trying to get, but basically what they own as a collective, right? And I'm not going to go too deep into this because there's quite a lot on this, this particular balance sheet, but it is kind of interesting as they walk through $23 trillion in liabilities. This plays into the risk assets. Do you guys want to see this, by the way? TikTok. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it because it's like super small. But anyway, this is the kind of interesting number here, which you can see this is banking credit. So these are basically what they've kind of issued out. You can see that the numbers were decreasing. Equally, you see back in 2021, banking credit was at its highest number, 8.3%, when we saw Bitcoin go absolutely crazy. The hedge against kind of crazy ass inflation. You can see right now that September's was 4.2, so a little bit declining. Then you sort of walk through in terms of things like loans and lease in bank credit. So what is people holding against that? Real estate loans, residential real estate loans, so mortgages, etc., etc., etc. And with all of it, by the way, in terms of total assets, it's actually declining, which aligns to the kind of Fed balance sheet. But outside of core asset liabilities, then banks are kind of revoking and kind of clawing back, which could signal we could get a little boom in the market. But I thought it was kind of interesting, especially when you start to walk through some of these bigger numbers. So for example, consumer loans, which is basically like personal debt, is also 2.8. Look how crazy it was back in 2021 bull market, 8. Then wicked up to 11.4 in the 2022 depression. So again, if you think about risk appetite and you think about, I guess, going right the way back to the start of this stream, what we talked about, a lot of this kind of is lining up for people to definitely take on more risk. I'm not saying you should, by the way, but, you know, there's quite a bit of interesting stuff that goes on this, particularly where, you know, we talk about liabilities in banks and we've talked about over leverage in banks as well. So, you know, could give us an upside move. You guys talking about pizza, man, you guys are honestly just the worst sometimes. Rich Macro Trades, what's going on? Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody, by the way, tuning in on TikTok, by the way. We're still building a great community over here. Don't forget, if you do want to join our Discord, links in the bio. Likewise, link in the description if you want to join in there. It is a free Discord if you want to get access to our premium Discord where we talk about latest coin alerts, trade calls, market sentiment. We do a full Sunday analysis breakdown as well as one on a Wednesday where we literally talk about macro data and everything else. Then grab a channel membership, subscribe here on TikTok, and you get instant access to that. Definitely worthwhile. I think it's one of the cheapest out there. So if you are interested in getting involved in that, then by all means, do it. And then we'll see you in there, hopefully. So, yeah, that kind of brings us to the end of the stream, really. I don't really have anything else. We'll hopefully see some more sentiment, which is good. If anyone is passing, come in, mention 2 bit a mile, and you get 50% discount. There you go. Look at that. Bullish. Grab yourself. If you're in North London, head over to Hot Door Limited and get involved. You do for your scam memes. What? ETH just broke 4,000 again, baby. ETH back above 4K. Bullish. Man, ETH's holding that support line really well as well, in fact, isn't it? Look how well like that market structure looks on ETH. In fact, should we just have a quick look through crypto Twitter and see, let's see what all the bears are doing right now. The only thing with Twitter is you don't quite know what's going to come up on the screen. So is there anything interesting going on in here? L Bank, no one cares. Oh, that's that Floki tweet, by the way. The Elon Musk Floki tweet that just like skyrocketed Floki for no reason. Oh dear me. Oh, not YouTube it. Okay, sorry, Curtis. Sorry, my US stock market is pumping, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there's not really a lot going on in here. A couple of choppers talking about nonsense. Just in BlackRock to launch its first Bitcoin linked fund in the UK. Is that not live now? BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin ETP list today on the London Stock Exchange and is now available for UK investors. Okay, so it should be live then. I bet. Oops. All. I bet on. I bet ETP. Yeah, here we are. Look. Oh no, that's not it. iShares Bitcoin ETP on the London Stock Exchange. There we go. Look. Cool. It did super well. Man, what did it launch at? It launched at $8. Oh, I'm assuming that's £8.30 and wicked down to $8.28. So, yeah, maybe not the best. We'll see. Tomorrow, maybe another day. I'll leave it on here so we can keep an eye on it. That's probably the right thing to do. The trouble is, how many UK people are going to invest in ETP with all the UK crypto rules? Well, that's the reason why they've launched it, because they've actually eased off some of the rules. So, you know, maybe it's a thing, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. But if we can continue this nice little move on BTC, I mean, we're rocking a little bit now, 111,300. Maybe, just maybe, market's about to turn bullish. Maybe we were right all along. I don't know. See you later, Fairground. As always, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the live stream. I appreciate it. If you found that you got any value about this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Again, if you're watching this not live, then remember, we live stream 9 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. Eastern, every single day with the exception of Saturday. And we're trying to bring you some real value in terms of the stream. So again, likewise on TikTok, if you enjoyed tonight, hit the follow button. I live stream. I mean, you've literally just heard me say it. But anyway, I'm going to be live again. So I'll be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. in the UK, bringing you the latest and greatest in cryptocurrency. I think the important thing will be watch out for the open, which will be around 1:20 in the morning for me, particularly when we look at Hong Kong, India, Malaysia, China. Let's see what they do. Pre-markets suggest we could get a nice bounce. Again, though, sometimes when we expect the S&P or we expect stocks to rally, sometimes crypto ends up being the victim. We will see how that all plays out. But as always, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Catch you tomorrow.